Can you tell me about how you first came in contact or got sort of pulled into the orbit of Karmapa's mandala?
Yes, I would love to share that with you. It's sort of an incredible story, but to me it was the best thing that has happened to me in my life. I was extremely fortunate right around the time I was about to graduate from the University of Bangalore, South India. Like I was mentioning to you earlier, at the stage of my life, early 20s, 21, trying to find myself, trying to find answers to what happened to Tibet, why we lost Tibet, what's our future, what the future of my own life, what the future of the Tibetan refugees in India. Then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I get a letter from Sikkim, from His Holiness the 16th Galwa Karmapa. It was. What year was that? That was in 1974. I'd actually just finished sitting for the final papers, waiting just to do the graduation ceremonies, and I get this letter, and it was in Tibetan. It was very official. It was a seal. Never saw something like that, and I shared it with my friend, and he read it to me, and he said, this is from the famous Karmapa Lama. And basically the letter sort of said, I hereby, the 16 Galwa Karmapa Renjung Rikpedoji, select you to be my English secretary, interpreter, come and meet me at such a time in Bhutan during the coronation. So I took the letter home to my parents in Balakupi, which is the largest Tibetan settlement in South India, in all of India. And my parents were just overjoyed. They said, hop on it, don't hesitate, don't ask any questions. This is the best thing that can happen to you. Not only for this life, but for the lives to come. So I hopped on a train for 4 days and 5 nights, and got to Siliguri and had a haircut, I remember, at the railway station in Calcutta, because I was in college. We had, those were fashionable days to have long hair. And in Siliguri, I was tempted to go and check in a hotel and take a shower, but something was telling me, like a small voice was saying, go on, don't stop. And later I realized, had I stopped in Siliguri one night, I would have missed him in Pinsoling. Because His Holiness and his entourage were already in Pinsoling that day, and the next day they were being ushered into, taken into Thimphu. So, and later I realized that the reason I got that letter was because of one Tulku Rinpoche. He's from Somang, and he escaped out of Somang, literally from Somang. Took them several months across Tibet through Bhutan. And his Tsawe Lama, his root teacher, was Karmapa. So he was living actually in my parents' home in South India. So he went specifically to go and get the Karmapa's blessing in Rumtek. And that time it was actually difficult for even Westerners. They had to have special permit. For Tibetans, but he managed to get there. And when he got there, he met Bauta Tuku, who still works for His Holiness's center up in Woodstock, New York. And in the conversation, my lucky stars, they discussed about me. And His Holiness says, yep, I want that kid. So that's how I came to him. You can imagine, prior to that, basically when I got to, it's an incredible story. When I hopped on the bus in Siliguri, it was always like truly that His Holiness was using his power, his spiritual power to make my passage smooth, really. Because, like I said to you, there was a big political turmoil in Bhutan at that time. They had arrested a lot of Tibetans. They were locked up, and there was a change of guards in Bhutan. The Wangchu family lost their power, and the Dorje family regained the power. So there was a whole big, major changes there. And there was newspaper articles about the conspiracy by, Yalatundup, the older brother of His Holiness, that was somehow involved in a plot to either assassinate this present king or put Achi Yanki's kids on the throne.
They would have been the older brother of the Dalai Lama, or of Karmapa?
Yeah, Mr. Yalatundup, who is still alive, he's the elder brother of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and the principal, I would say, the principal Tibetan contact with the government of India, with the Kampa, guerrilla resistance, with contact with the CIA, getting His Holiness the Dalai Lama to escape, and he became the principal, actually, individual to run the exile community. Actually, he was behind the scene, but constantly representing the Dalai Lama. Although he was based in Hong Kong, he would get direct calls from, for example, from Deng Xiaoping. He called him first before he called anybody, saying at that time, let's talk about Tibet, anything, any place except independence. They called Gyalatundup. So it was a tricky situation. And when I was on the bus, this Tibetan soldier was in full, military uniform, and he said, Achi, I told him I was going to see the Karmapa. He said, oh, no problem. When you get to Pinsoling, he says, don't say you're a Tibetan. Just mention that you want to go to Karmapa. He gave me the name of the hotel. I remember even to this day. It's called, Tashi Dele Hotel. And he said, there's a person by the name of Loga who owns that. Once you find him, just tell him you want to go to the Karmapa, and he will help you. So I got there. Pinsoling was like one of those new towns that was just being developed, and for me it was fascinating to see similar Tibetan culture. Having grown up in India, it's almost like going to Tibet. And so I was having a Indian-style bath, and I hear these voices, out of the window, and there were 3 monks going by, and they were looking for, saying, Achi, Achi. And I just thought, I said, truly the Karmapa must be clairvoyant. I mean, he must have known how did they know I was here? Later I found out that in the bus was a young Tibetan. He was maybe about, 10 years old. He was the son of Kyangatsan's family, and he was going to the coronation, but he was going to a school in Darjeeling, and he must have heard my conversation. So when he got to the Karmapa guest house, he says, guess what? There's Batutuku's, I heard that there's Batutuku's nephew, he was on the bus. That's how they came to know I was. So they got me. If they hadn't found me that day, I would have missed. And most probably I would never have been with him.